You know, you're against the war that your party cheered. You're scared of this big debt building up under your party's leadership. You oppose the big spending that President Bush has encouraged on the drug industry and education. Wall Street thinks you're a crank for your beliefs. Why do you stay in the Republican Party?
Well, I've been elected as a Republican for 10 times, and Republicans have a platform and had a better platform in the past. They expressed these views. But in fact, George Bush, if you remember, ran on a foreign policy not too far from what I'm talking about. So it's not like I'm completely a stranger to the Republican ideas of, you know, they talked about balanced budgets and limited government, right, and they're strict constitutionalists. And I think the ones who are in charge right now have left the Republican Party in the platform, which makes it more difficult because people in the party, the hardcore base, which unfortunately for the Republicans is getting smaller, but they're loyal to the leader, and they're loyal to maintaining power. They're not loyal to a principle or the Constitution and saying doing what is right. You know, they can't reverse their trend. You know, if we're in a bad situation in Iraq, no, we can't be disloyal. And so they're not objective enough. So, but I think I can be a good Republican and fight for these ideals because they have been in the Republican Party in the past. And the question is will these ideas be revived once again in the Republican Party, or will people like myself be excluded? There's indeed, a lot of people would like to exclude me from the Republican Party, but their party is awful small. Why would they want to exclude us if we want to work within the Republican Party?
Because it seems hard to reconcile the presence of a libertarian party, and you know, you've got a pretty substantial guerrilla army out there in the, of libertarians with a government, with a party of big business, a party of war, a party of God. That seems hard for someone outside to reconcile.
Yeah, it is, and yet I imagine you could find some inconsistency with all the parties. I'm sure there's some of those. You know, the idea that liberal Democrats are supposed to protect our civil liberties and keep us out of war, they don't do a very good job either. So when you get up on the leadership ladder, it seems like policies aren't a whole lot different. Foreign policy never changed. Domestic fiscal policy, the welfare entitlement system never changes. Monetary policy won't even be discussed. And that's both parties. And the vehicle that you use, I think, is not as relevant as the message, and that has been what has driven me, is the fact that we need to change course in this country. I highly respect the Constitution, but I'm not even overly rigid about the Constitution. There's a vehicle for changing it. I just am overly rigid. Don't ignore it. Don't go to war without declaring it. And, you know, listen to the Fourth Amendment. Listen to what it says about the privacy rights of the American people.
How do we get these ideas into the public debate, given the tendency of the big media to want to narrow the discussion? I mean, they say that in Iowa, in these debates in New Hampshire, they just want to try to get the conversation down so it can be more intimate among the real candidates.
Yeah, well, you have to just go where you can, and like I said, there is more competition. We might have Fox, which is tied deeply to the war, more so than, say, a Wolf Blitzer. Wolf Blitzer gives me a fair shake. He interviews me, and I think he's a very decent journalist. So I think that we just have to use the tools that we have, and I try not to concentrate on those brickbats that they're throwing at me. I just found I'll just go around it and do my best to get around it. I still think there's enough freedom in this country, even though it's shrinking all the time, where we can get our message out. And I see the young people. I am so enthused about the young people who are excited about these views and what they see on YouTube and the internet. And they're not coming here because they're asking for student loans. They come to me and they're excited because I tell them that, you know, you're not going to get a thing out of Social Security. All you're going to do is pay for 50 years. The whole thing is broke. I said, I have an idea and a way we can get you out of it. You can take care of yourself once again. And they love these ideas.
You know, it's views like that that cause some people. I pulled some stories from the internet this morning. I mean, some critics think you're a hero to liberals because you're against the war and you constantly are on a charge against George W. Bush. And they say, you know,
but they don't like these views.
No, they don't. In fact, there's some pieces I've been reading this morning that accuse you of illiberal sentiments on race, Israel, and other topics. They say that you've demeaned blacks by some of your references to the Civil War and to slavery, and that you are always attacking the Jewish lobby, the Israeli lobby.
Oh, I think that's completely wrong. And you know, libertarianism is the enemy of all racism, because racism is a collectivist idea. It's that you put people in categories. You say, well, blacks belong here and whites here and women here. And we don't see people in forms or gays. You don't have rights because you're gays or women or minority. You have rights because you're an individual. So we see people as strictly as individuals, and we get these individuals in a natural way. So it's exactly opposite of all collectivism, and it's absolutely anti-racism because we don't see it in those terms.
Do you think your views have been misunderstood?
Oh, I think purposely some people who finally get nervous about what I'm saying. But, you know, back to this idea that some liberals will say, oh, yeah, well, yeah, we like them on foreign policy, but some of this welfare, we like our welfare. But the point is if we don't do something with our financial thing, everybody's going to go broke. I mean, how are we going to keep up with the cost of living increases for the people on retirement when they're losing at a 10% rate and they get a 2% increase? I'm saying cut all this money overseas, save hundreds of billions of dollars. I'm against throwing anybody out in the street. Take care of the people that are dependent on government. Help them out. But spend this money here at home. But introduce some new ideas and sound money and good economic policy where we can allow the next generation to get a foothold and be able to take care of themselves once again. Because today, when you have a dollar crisis and the currency crashes, everybody goes broke.
What is it like trying to get these ideas out in a campaign driven by a press that's in love with sound bites?
Well, it's difficult. There's no doubt about it.
Anything we can do about that?
Once again, it's raising up a new generation that understands what freedom is all about, what the founders were up to when they wanted minimal government, what they meant when they didn't want to hold a centralized, strong government. These are all things that I believe in, and that individuals, we want government, but we want self-government or local government or family government, but we don't want the nanny state to tell us to deal not only with economic matters, but also in the area of virtue. If you think the nanny state is okay to make the society more fair economically, you use the same force there as you say, well, the conservative comes along and we say, well, we're going to legislate virtue. But it's the same issue. And this is what we're trying to put this issue of freedom back together again. There's not two parts of it, economic freedom and personal freedom. There's only one freedom.
The Chicago Tribune has a headline, Paul, a seller of ideas. They call him Dr. No. No big government, no big spending, no flouting the Constitution, and no interest in a slick political image. And the lead of this story is no more Department of Education, no more Federal Reserve Bank, no more Medicare or Medicaid, no more membership in the United Nations or NATO, no more federal drug laws, and no more U.S. troops in Iraq or anywhere else on foreign soil. Does that pretty well sum up?
It's a pretty good idea. I have transition programs for everything because I think the Federal Reserve is a monstrous idea. This whole idea that if your government needs money and the politicians spend too much to run wars, oh, we'll print up the money. I mean, it's a silly idea. But I have a transition program, just like I said, about taking care of Social Security recipients or money. You can introduce competition. There's a lot of ways we can work our way out of it. Yeah, but that is basically it. But you can turn every one of those no's into a yes. Yes, I'm for freedom. Yes, I am for sound money. Yes, I'm for free markets. Yes, I'm for a sensible foreign policy. I sure am for bringing the troops home because I am against American empire. I'm for defending this country and having a strong national defense.